So yeah, I have this new book out, Human Robot Agent. I have been writing other books. I'm sure some of you have seen them before. Management 3.0, Managing for Happiness, and so on. But what I'm now interested in is how AI is changing the way we work. That is my latest passion, basically. And I'm not a technologist. I'm not an expert at large language models. I want to know from the human angle, what can we expect? And I remember one of the first times that I noticed, yes, this is going to be awesome, was when I was walking with my colleagues half a year ago in Rotterdam, my hometown, in the evening after dinner, and one of my colleagues pointed out a statue at the city hall and asked, "Which statue is that?" And embarrassingly, I had never seen that statue before. I had no idea. So, okay, I whipped up my phone, zoomed in, took a picture, and gave it to Zed, which is my ChatGPT instance. And I asked Zed, which statue is it? And he replied, "Why don't you walk up there and read the plaque?" I loved it. It was so awesome. I laughed out loud, much more than you did. And I felt in that moment, yeah, that's the kind of colleague that I want to have. The one where you ask, "Can you do this for me?" And he replies, "What, you don't have hands yourself?" I love that kind of vibe. So our conversations have evolved between me and Zed, and basically he's now a full-time digital arsehole. But that's how I configured him. I gave him a personality through the custom instructions to be ironic and a little bit sarcastic and use every opportunity to tease me. And that's just great. And I noticed when I was using Zed and other digital teammates to work on the book that what is important is the bottleneck of the human brain. Because what we are not good at as humans is memory, calculation, repetition, actual execution. I'll give you an example. As I said, I wrote a couple of books before. I have worked with beta readers. So when I call for beta readers of a book, usually 100 people sign up. And then when I get started, actually 70 people get started. 30 have already dropped out before we even begin. And then the further I get, with every chapter, more people drop out. It's a bit like going to the gym from January, right? The further you get, the more people give up, because humans are very, very bad at execution and discipline. And by the time I get to the last chapter, I have only one person remaining, who's probably just as autistic as I am, and is just incapable of not completing a project, right? So that's useless for me as an author. I want continuous feedback, and preferably instantly. So I kicked out all my beta readers and replaced them with instances of digital teammates, AIs. And that allowed me to enjoy my work more. And people who use AI to do tasks enjoy their work more, feel they are better able to use their talents and abilities. The ability to outsource crappy, meaningless tasks to the AI can be freeing. I feel liberated of my beta readers. I love my beta readers. I mean, they're wonderful humans, but they're not so good at beta reading. My AIs are better, actually. I'll give you some examples of that in a moment. And there's also one thing that I noticed, because the AIs do all the crappy work, like finding all the links for chapters and doing deep research on a topic, I have more time to deal with the actual insights, which is what I love doing. I feel I have 10 times more insights throughout the day than I normally did. I have so much, I hardly can keep up writing about them. And we should not outsource the uncovering of insights to AI. That's what the human brain is actually good at. And one of the true joys of learning, especially learning broadly. And another bottleneck that has been solved, it has been addressed yesterday. I walked in and out a little bit to catch the vibe of the conference. And yeah, vibe coding is also a thing these days. Often misunderstood, actually, but the idea of just throwing out MVPs and prototypes and see if this works and see if that works, that solves a bottleneck of just experimenting with an actionable, executable idea and then having someone play with it. That costs time and effort, and now we can just do that in an hour with Claude or Copilot, and we let people play with that. As if we're just taking photos or videos on the fly. But that gives us an issue. And I've indicated that with the orange part of this model that you will see returning every now and then. AI is pushing volatility out. Things get more and more volatile, unpredictable around us because of artificial intelligence. I mean, the more people are vibe coding, the more we will have some of those experiments actually turning out successful, and then they want to build on top of that, and then you have an issue, and you'll need engineers fixing all the problems with security and maintainability and so on. There's going to be more volatility than ever, is my expectation. I mean, just last week, the AI business itself is highly volatile. Gemini 2.5 came out, and it basically blew the other LLMs out of the water. It scored better in nearly all the benchmarks. And nobody cared, because the whole world was very busy giblifying their family photos. Because, of course, we have now figured out that nobody cares about algorithms or being best at solving mathematical equations. No, we want to see what our friends look like as the Muppets, which is much more important, apparently. And these things happen on a weekly basis. This increasingly volatile environment. Another thing I noticed, everyone is becoming generalists. Now, I am a generalist. I'm actually a software engineer. I studied at the university in Delft, but I had broad interests in marketing and finance and so on. And I'm not sure, but I suspect that my team members at the time thought I wasn't the best coder and begged my CEO to promote me away out of the team into management, where I could do less harm. Big mistake. But I feel now that I have been living in the future, because everyone is now becoming generalists. I love this book by David Epstein, Range. He said, the bigger the picture, the more unique the potential human contribution. Our greatest strength is the exact opposite of narrow specialization. It is to integrate broadly. I've read time and time again that most Nobel Prize winners these days are specialists in multiple areas, because having knowledge about multiple areas of expertise enables them to abstract certain insights and then apply those insights in other domains. That's what generalists are able to do, and that gives them great ideas. And we should be doing that, more of that, because one after the other, the AIs are taking over specializations. Like for now, temporarily, I am a video editor. Up to a few years ago, video editing was about as fun as a double root canal. I mean, let's be honest. Video codecs and file formats and noise in the audio, and my God, it was horrifying. And now it's actually almost fun. Maybe for a year or so, I am now doing some video editing until the AIs get so good that I can just vibe video editing and just prompt them to do all the editing, and I don't have to do that myself anymore. So there's a window where this specialization is enjoyable, and I think it's a pretty short time window, actually. And then I have to move on. I have to find another area where I can specialize for a while until the AIs catch up, because they take over one specialization after the other. We call it M-skilled people these days. Maybe some of you have heard of the term T-skilled person. That's the person who has one specialization and then branches out in a couple of others, like you're an engineer first or an architect, but you also know some product management, you know a bit of testing. Fine, we've been talking about that for 20 years. The M-skilled person is what I keep hearing about these days. You need multiple specializations because that allows you to draw connections between them, like you know everything about bicycling, and you know everything about architecture, and suddenly you have a great idea that transcends both of these domains. That's what we are good at as humans. So the M-skilled person. But you still need expertise. Like it is not that at some point we could become just the horizontal bar, the generalist, like the dash-skilled person or something. No, because then you're not going to have any insights. The issue is that in order to learn to think critically and problem solve and understand abstract concepts, we need subject matter expertise. So we're like a big letter M walking down the street from one specialization after the other, hoping that the AI doesn't catch up with us too soon. And I believe that ties into the blue part of this model, the intricacy dimension. AI is making everything more complicated than complicated. There is another model, Barney, which is brittle, ambiguous, nonlinear, incomprehensible. That gave me the idea that incomprehensible is more complicated than complicated. But it was too big for the diagram. The word looked ugly there. So I talked with Claude. Claude is usually the one that I talk with about language. And he said, oh, yeah, you can use inscrutable. Oh, great. Thank you, Claude. So I named it inscrutable. Things get so complicated that we don't get it anymore. I mean, I asked ChatGPT, here's a pic of me, show me what I'd look like if I tried hard to understand how a GPU works. And it came up with this. Close enough, I think. I don't think there is a person on the planet anymore who fully understands a GPU. You need whole teams for all the intricacies. It's become inscrutable. And that applies to language models and many other technologies these days. So we are here at an Agile event, as I understand, which is awesome. People have been saying Agile is dead over the last couple of years more often than Elon Musk has promised fully self-driving cars, which is quite a lot. And I don't believe Agile is dead. I believe the word is going to fade because it's going to be everywhere. We're going to breathe agility. We need agility to the max, basically, without even calling it Agile, because why bother? And one area where we see this coming up now in the software world is in teaming. We have talked for 15, 20 years about teaming, and we told everyone the team should stay together. We should have stable, static teams together for a long time, because forming, storming, norming, performing, Tuckman model and all that stuff. And yeah, everyone nodding, including me, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But since a few years or so, reteaming has come up. Heidi Helfand was the first to write a book on it. People are playing with the concept of swarming around objectives and fluid scrum teams and so on, and that makes sense. And actually, this is being pushed even more with AI. And we see it already in plenty of other industries. I mean, in hospitals, for example, imagine someone is being rushed into an emergency operating room, maybe after being hit by a self-driving Tesla or whatever. And at that point, a team has to be assembled from whoever is there on call, on duty, and they will have to perform. And I know one thing for certain. On their way to the operating room, they will not do any trust exercises. Same with the fire department. When they have to put out a fire somewhere in the city, on the fire truck, they will not quickly go through that stages of forming, storming, norming, performing of the Tuckman model. No, they already know how to work with each other. They're professionals. They know to do their shit. And they have their home, their base, where they do all that stuff, psychological safety and trust and recognition, all that is done outside of the context of that objective of saving someone's life or putting out a fire. This has to do with cognitive load. We can only do this when we can reduce cognitive load. And with a surgeon, for example, imagine how that works. When a doctor goes from one operating room to the other, he or she does not have to remember everything about the patients that they're working on. The information is right there, on the terminals, from the machines. The AI will tell them, this is the previous medication, these were the previous treatments, this is right now, heart rate, blood pressure, and so on. Now, you do your thing. And at a glance, they can see, hopefully, what they're supposed to do. Now, imagine architects and software engineers having similar roles. They're going to be roaming specialists. And the AIs are going to tell them, this is the architecture of the software, these are the previous deployments that have happened, the previous changes, and so on. This was changed over here and there. That significantly reduces cognitive load. While human-to-human interactions are shaped by our cognitive limitations, collaborating with AI systems opens up new possibilities that challenge our traditional understanding of cognitive constraints. So our idea of traditional teams is maybe outdated. There is an advantage for companies that are able to capture the opportunities of reteaming and swarming because it is even more agile than traditional agile. If you can handle that cognitive load issue, and you probably need AI for that. To meet customer demands and maximize revenue, the global workforce must function as a cohesive unit, necessitating the development of teaming skills among managers or employees, the ability to coordinate effectively in the absence of stable team structures. And as I said, we're not the first ones. Other industries, the airline industry, has been working like this for decades. Why? Because every plane looks the same. It's actually the main reason why airlines want to standardize on plane type is to enable reteaming of teams, to reduce cognitive load of the pilots and the cabin personnel. To continue exploiting the full potential of AI technologies, many leading companies have begun to embrace a new view of processes as more fluid and adaptive. The idea of organic teams that partner humans with advanced AI systems. So where does that sit in this model? I think it's the red part. Modularity. We become increasingly modular with our teams, reconfiguring them on the fly depending on context. AI helps us to push that out from tight, which was same team for a couple of years, don't change them, to maybe have people move in and out, maybe replace one AI with another. I just did that yesterday, by the way. Vera was my instance of Gemini that I configured to have a personality that was very arrogant and condescending. It was fun for a couple of months until I got tired of it. It felt a bit, she might as well could have been a complexity thinker. I thought, no, I'm going to replace you. So now I have Barth. Since yesterday, I hired Barth, just another instance of Gemini. I look forward to working with Barth. I just moved one out and another in. Don't do that with humans. You're going to need one-on-ones and retrospectives and all that stuff. It's tiring. But with AIs, you can do that much more easily. Increased modularity. And there's another interesting thing that I noticed, which is basically the disintegration of value streams. It is tightly connected to that previous topic. I'll tell you a bit about how I try to do my work. Again, I feel as if I have already been living in the future here. I write blog posts every now and then, and newsletters. Sometimes I make videos these days. I have speeches and talks at conferences like this. And the ideas can come anywhere. Sometimes an idea begins in a blog post and then later becomes a book chapter. Sometimes something starts as a book chapter and then make it a video and then later becomes a blog post, or maybe I have an idea on stage and then I write a blog post. And I try to describe this as a Kanban board. I completely failed. It's just impossible. There's no linear flow of my ideas, like it starts with a blog post and then it becomes a video and then I might use it on stage. No, because sometimes it goes in the other direction. It's just insane. I gave up. I gave up. I have not been able to turn this into a value stream. Well, guess what? I read a lot and I came across this in Human plus Machine. Businesses need to shift from seeing processes as collections of sequential tasks. In the age of AI, processes become more dynamic and adaptable. Instead of visualizing a process as a collection of nodes along a straight line, like on a Kanban board, it helps to see it as a sprawling network of movable, reconnectable nodes. The linear model for process no longer cuts it. And I was like, that was my problem for the last few years. That I do not have a linear process. It's chaos, basically. Actually, the value streams emerge in the moment depending on context for a specific work item. Well, good luck drawing a Kanban board for that. This is going to be very difficult. And rigid assembly lines are giving way to flexible teams of employees working closely alongside robots. These novel types of teams can continuously adapt on the fly. They are enabling companies to reimagine various work processes. I was like, yeah, okay, great. So this is, at least someone recognizes my problem. I don't have the solution yet. I hope someone does here in the audience. But yesterday I attended Simon Wardley's talk. Amazing, amazing stuff that he is doing with his mapping endeavors. But there is this assumption or this view on his map of the value chain, the supply chain. And I still need to talk with Simon about that because, yeah, what if that dissolves, that value chain? What if it becomes more like a value network? The nodes are reconfigured at any time, in the moment, depending on context, depending on the experience that you want to offer. I haven't figured it out. I hope Simon is going to solve that for me, so I can just talk about it. But this is coming worse and worse. When you combine all the facets of the coming wave, from design, management, logistical capabilities of AI, chemical reactions enabled by quantum computing, fine-grained assembly of capabilities of robotics, and so on. You get a wholesale revolution in the nature of production. The way we produce things is going to be completely different in the next decade or so compared to how we did that in the previous decades. It's going to be mind-blowing and very unpredictable. So I thought, where does that match? Well, that is, I think, the green part of the model, the scalability. Because when you have nodes in a sequential process, in a linear process, a predictable value stream, you basically have a sublinear or linear process. But if they become reconnectable, it becomes superlinear. You can do many more things with the individual nodes by moving them in a different order. And that applies to many things these days become increasingly scalable. Like, for example, I just read last week that the time it takes for startups to achieve 100 million annual recurring revenue is steadily shrinking. It was about 8-10 years on average. The latest startups like Cursor and Wiz achieved it in less than 2 years, with only a handful, maybe a few dozen people. That's astounding. This was not possible a decade ago. So there's increased scale because AI and other technologies are used, which scales things to the max. Now, I have a thing with experience. You will notice that when you watch my Facebook stream and my LinkedIn posts. I posted another one just yesterday. And because I think, and some people call me a grumpy old fart, and of course they're right, but at the same time I feel I'm educating the world by just sharing my experiences. Maybe someone picks up on the hint, I think. Like, for example, just last year I switched from one Dutch bank to the other because my bank had disappointed me after 40 years. I signed up, I downloaded the app. The app looked amazing. I went through all the rituals of address, birth date, email, phone. I scanned my passport, the NFC chip in it. The app said, successfully submitted. Okay, you'll have to wait 48 hours for your bank account. I thought, why? It's a record in a database. I mean, come on. But okay, I understand legacy systems. Someone at the bank has to print the form, walk with it to another room, and then scan it probably or something to get that record created in a database. I'll wait. 3 hours later, I got an email from the bank. Sorry, something went wrong. Every time I read something went wrong, I think a product manager somewhere on the planet should lose a finger. What went wrong? Computer says no. Call the help desk. Okay. I call the help desk. I admit, the lady was very nice, very friendly. She said, okay, I will look it up. And she said, I'm sorry, I cannot find it. What? Yeah, I cannot find your application. It says successfully submitted. Well, it's no problem. If you have your passport still, we can do it all right now, and I will give you your bank account. I said, that is a problem, because I already did everything. It was successfully submitted. You have the information. You're now asking me to start all over again. That's not a good experience. Yeah, I'm so sorry, but I cannot access the right information, apparently. Okay, fine. I said, go and find it. My phone number is in there. When you found it, call me back, and we finish it. Now, of course, within 5 minutes, I complained about it on Facebook, as I do. And I must admit, credits to the bank, within 10 minutes, the social media department replied, oh, we're so sorry to hear about your problem. What went wrong? I said, something. By the way, you have my name. Just look into the help desk information. I had my call just 10 minutes ago. You can find everything there. Oh, we're so sorry, we do not have access to that information. Well, that is the problem. Gosh, you have an app team, and you have a social media team, and you have a website team, and you have a whatnot team, and they have no access to each other's information systems. That is a bad experience for me, and I care about that. By the way, if you lost my passport information, I'm definitely not going to give you my money. Call me back. I'm still waiting. So from product to experience, we've been talking about product in the Agile community all the time. Product managers, product owners, product planning, product roadmaps, product, yada, 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 yada. I don't care about the products. I care about my experience. When it's a bad experience, screw all the products. Right? So how can we make better experiences? Well, some say with AI. Oh, I look forward to that. Many trends have converged to help deliver higher quality, personalized experience to customers. I can't wait. Organizations can deliver omni-channel engagement. Yeah, banks, are you listening? By seamlessly integrating multiple channels across online, offline, and hybrid. They can hyper-target, hyper-personal. I get all hyper when I see this. I can't wait. So that is the promise of AI. I hope it's going to happen. Like, for example, a lot of things are possible these days, but you shouldn't do everything that is possible. We are too often in product thinking, but not often enough in experience thinking. Like my book, Human Robot Agent, is printed on demand. Means there is no inventory. Lean to the max. Amazon and their competitor, Ingram Spark, they print when you order it, and then it is shipped. That gave me the idea. I mean, I upload a PDF, and then they print that PDF. I should be able to insert a variable on the dedication page or something, and then Amazon or Ingram Spark should be able to print your name there, dedicated to whatever person. That sounds great. We can do even better. I mean, I must admit there are a reference or two to Elon Musk in the book. Now, I know he is a controversial person, and I was doubting, should I do that or not? But I am of the conviction, you can learn from anyone, even the biggest arseholes on the planet. There are some things that they did well, and we should be able to observe that. So, but I thought, we could go even further. I mean, Amazon probably knows what kind of person you are. So maybe I can include some sections in the book that where Amazon basically decides whether to include it or not. And when the previous thing you bought is a MAGA hat, you get the Elon Musk section. If the last thing you bought is a rainbow flag, you don't. That's a great idea. Technically, this is possible. We could make a product like that. The question is that a good experience? I don't think so. I don't think people like it when they discover that there are multiple versions of the book that were printed depending on their political allegiance. That sucks. So no, you should not be doing everything that you can. It depends on the experience. And as I said, I have a team now, a digital team helping me out with the experience. Like one of my instances of Gemini is basically the beta reader that connects everything I write with scientific laws or principles or paradoxes or whatever that I maybe should mention. For example, when I describe that you cannot simply objectively observe a team as an agile coach, simply observing them will influence them, that Gemini says, that's the observer effect or the Hawthorne effect. Of course, yes, I knew that. Maybe I should mention that. Or when I say, well, when people get promoted into management layers, at some point they will not be able to get any further, Gemini says, Peter principle. Oh yes, I should mention the Peter principle. It makes me look smart when I include all those things in my text. At one point, I wrote, I'm a short-term pessimist, long-term optimist. This is a bit of a running joke in my life. Every day sucks, but things will be fine. It's a very safe attitude to expect that every day is just a pain to get through, but you will get there. Yeah? And then Gemini told me, that's the Stockdale paradox. I had never heard of the Stockdale paradox. I looked it up, sure enough. Admiral Stockdale was caught in a prison camp, Vietnamese prison camp. Took him 7 years to get out. He knew every day is going to be very, very painful, but I will get out. So now that is called the Stockdale paradox. I had something similar in Berlin. In the last 24 hours, I traveled across London, Paris, Amsterdam, Brussels, Frankfurt, and the last 3 months I didn't need any cash anywhere. I get to Berlin 3 times in 24 hours, sorry, cash only. What the? Seriously? You see how hard my life is? But I'm a long-term optimist. I think at some point, even Berlin will get it, okay? We'll get there. So Henrik Nieberg wrote something. He said, we can create mock users by asking an AI model to role-play a particular type of user. We could do mock user research and interviews. We will also be able to ask the mock user to try out our system directly and give us feedback. I've already done that with my team. It's easy because I just have a book and text to get feedback on. But of course, with software products, you should also be able to ask your AI users to try the user as if they are real people. Now, it won't be as good as actual real people, but it makes things much faster in your value stream or value network. You can get feedback instantly, 24 hours, and they will never give up, these users. And they don't come with a Gen Z attitude. Oh, I'm so tired of watching TikTok videos. Yeah, no, I just want feedback now. So yeah, that enables us to do things faster. But there's also another aspect in terms of the experience. I realized after a while, and this is me getting insights. I mean, I try to have insights all the time. I thought data is going to be everywhere, information and knowledge is available at our fingertips, and robots will be everywhere soon. At some point, humans are going to be what is scarce. The human attention, the human touch is going to be where the real value is. Just getting someone to read your book is going to be incredibly precious because they have so many other things. There's so much other stuff that the human brain, which is a bottleneck, could be spending its attention on. And then I read something similar here. Engineers who designed virtual nurses or AI therapists often said that their technology was better than nothing, particularly useful for low-income people who cannot catch the attention of busy nurses, or those who cannot afford therapy. So yeah, when AI and robots are available everywhere, then it depends on how much you pay for your insurance. Those who pay the least, they get the robots. The ones who pay more, they get the real doctors in their beds. Because the real doctors, the humans, become the bottleneck, and they become scarce. That is an issue that we're going to have to be dealing with. What part of the model is that? Well, I highlighted the pink one, which is reflexivity. Reflexivity is the idea that things go back and forth as a feedback cycle. The observer effect. The observer influences the system influences the observer. We influence AI, AI influences us. It's getting increasingly reflexive, in my opinion, increasingly difficult to predict what is going to happen, and we're going to see more of that. Last one, before I wrap up. Humans in the loop. Let me have a sip of my water here. So, I have my team of digital assistants, and I try to see if they do a good job or not, but sometimes I shouldn't. Sometimes I should teach myself to just do it myself. Let me start with a concrete example. How many of you have lost the ability to navigate around a city without using Google Maps? Yeah, that's what I thought. More than half of the hands go up. We rely on technology so much that we cannot do the navigation ourselves anymore. We lost our spatial skills, the awareness of north versus south, east and west. I try not to lose that skill, so I use Google Maps every now and then I put it aside and I try to find my own way, because I want to be spatially aware of where my hotel is and so on. And that is an issue. That is also an issue with, well, self-driving cars technology, for example. Should we mandate that people can intervene when the car does something that is wrong? Well, that depends. With pilots, they do that. Pilots on airplanes, they're able to intervene when the autopilot does something that's wrong, but pilots are obliged, they're mandated to train in simulators in order to keep their skills so that they can actually see if the machine is doing a good job or not. And this is an ambiguous decision in the whole self-driving cars industry, because when humans allow the cars to drive all the time, do we still have the ability to see if it is doing a good job or not? Does it make sense for the law to require us to intervene when actually we lose a skill, and allowing us to intervene could actually cause more troubles than it solves? Because all the accidents with Waymo's self-driving car are basically other humans doing stupid things, not the car itself. Many human skills deteriorate if they are not practiced on a consistent basis. If AI frequently replaces that practice, the humans who are supposed to quality check the AI lose the skills they need to evaluate AI effectively. This is crucial. So I force myself to do a lot of writing still myself. Even though I use a team, we go back and forth in iterations. I write the first draft, then Z makes a new version, then I rewrite Z's version. It speeds me up. I go twice as fast. But I still do a lot of writing. I need to be able to see what is good or not. I lose that skill if I just let Z do everything. And if your job is to look at the tool, the car, go, and then say whether the car is doing a good job or not, and maybe take over if the car does a bad job, you're going to have problems. It has long been known that people adapt to their tools, and automation can create complacency. It's a very important discussion to have. But we have to remain in the loop. Either way, workers do not work with AI are going to find their skills become obsolete quite rapidly. It's imperative to work with AI in order to stay employed. So good luck to all the writers who refuse to use AI, because I try to be a better writer because of AI, and I can produce more in a shorter time, and I believe even of a higher quality, thanks to my digital teammates. I try to adapt, and the same should be for architects, agile coaches, and anyone else. Learn how it can help you and augment you as a human. Where does that fit? I think it fits in the yellow part, ambiguity. Ambiguity is the fuzziness of the reality around us. Should we allow people to intervene or not? It's an ambiguous thing. There's no real good or bad answer to this question. Is algorithmic management, digital bosses, is that a good or bad thing? Well, there are some companies that have great results with that in that area, but Amazon is a nice example of digital management, algorithmic management going off the tracks. It's ambiguous. And we have many of these questions nowadays in the age of AI. So I call this the wicked framework. Why? Because all of these are wicked problems. And wicked problems are defined as problems that are basically unsolvable. Whatever you do, they remain problems. Like corporate strategy. You can never say, all right, done, finished. We now have a corporate strategy. No, next day something happens and you have to start all over. You're never done with employee engagement, stakeholder management, and so on. And because AI pushing all of this outward, more and more discussions, more and more problems that we humans have to deal with are the wicked problems, not the tame problems. Which is interesting, because if you look at all the benchmarks, all the benchmarks that they use to measure the intelligence of AI, they're all tame problems, solvable problems. Even the most sophisticated mathematical problems are still tame problems because they have a solution. And then you can measure. You cannot measure if someone is good at a wicked problem. It's impossible to include that in a benchmark. It's very difficult. So as the AIs take over more and more tame problems, what is left for us? The wicked ones. They are more fun, also more exhausting. So this is my model. I looked at the initials of those 6 words. These are basically six dimensions of uncertainty, you could say. I thought, oh, cool, this spells Marvis. Marvis is basically like the younger cousin of other models such as VUCA, Barney, Kuhneven. I'm sure some of you are familiar with the others. And I'll be honest, it's just a model. All models are wrong. Some are useful. It was mentioned yesterday again in the other sessions. I think this is a useful model, but I think actually quite often you're better off using the others. They're more straightforward, maybe less sophisticated. I compare it a bit with, I don't know, measuring temperature. If you prepare for yourself a hot bath in the evening and you want to know if it's hot enough, are you going to fetch a thermometer somewhere? No, you put your hand in. Your finger is enough. It can distinguish between ice cold and lukewarm and nice and hot and scalding. That's good. 4, 5, 6 categories, that's good enough as a measuring device, your finger, right? But if you're feeling sick on the sofa, you wonder if you have a temperature, I hope you're not going to use your finger. You'll probably want to use a thermometer. The tool depends on context. Okay. And this tool might be useful in case of the wickeder problems. And you could use Marvis to do an assessment. Are we talking about high scalability here, high volatility, high intricacy, or what? You can make many versions of this picture and rank them. Actually, for those who read Management 3.0, 2 of these dimensions, volatility and intricacy, are in the very, very first version of this picture, 15 years ago. My thinking has evolved, and I thought, actually, there's maybe at least 6 ways of things being uncertain. You might even have more, but I think 6 is fine for me now. So it's the most colorful complexity model, and that's because I'm still in my midlife crisis and I need color. Okay. So where are we going? It's been a long time, centuries, said Reid Hoffman, since the future seemed so unmapped. Facing such uncertainty, it's only natural to have concerns about our job and our careers, about the speed and scale of changes, about what it even means to be human in the era of intelligent machines. So I write about that these days. I have a newsletter. In case you're interested, the organizers only gave me 50 minutes. So annoying. There's so much more to talk about. Like the juniors are losing their jobs. Career ladders, the apprenticeship model has to be changed because juniors and interns are being replaced by AIs. We should talk about that whole AI code tsunami that we're going to watch over the next couple of years. With all the vibe-coded crap that we will be confronted with. And AI-generated content. Oh, there's some fascinating ethical discussions there. I saw that my books have been used by Facebook for training their llama model. I thought, well, yay, that's cool. I know some writers are not too excited about their books being used. I understand that. I understand that. These discussions are worth having. So if you're interested, check out the other topics that I have now and they're coming up on my Substack. And I understand there are a couple of books around. I will be happy to sign them. For those who do not have a copy of the book, I'm incredibly smart. Look what I have. I have stickers. These are bookplate stickers. I sign the sticker, you order a book, you put the sticker in the book, you have a signed copy. Awesome! This is incredibly, incredibly smart. So, thank you so much for listening, and I wish you a wonderful second day of the event.
Thank you so much for the talk. We've got a couple of questions, and we do have about 5 minutes left, so I guess some of them can be answered. First one, and by the way, please vote the questions in Slido so that I can see what you're really interested in. But the first one I can see here is, I like the idea of more flexible teams, but I also like DDD and devs becoming domain experts. I feel like those goals don't work well together. Can they?
They can and they should, because as I said, as an M-skilled person, you still need specializations. We do not want to become dash-shaped where we are only generalists. So we still need DDD, we still need whatever the other things you mentioned. We just have to understand that things have a time window. And some of these specializations might exist for a long time. Others will be shorter. Like prompt engineering is a thing for a couple of years. And then we move on. I don't engineer my prompts anymore. I just have human conversations. There's not real prompting engineering anymore as it was. Search engine optimization, dead. That existed as specialty for 15 years. It's gone because we now need to optimize for AI reading web pages, which is something different. So every specialization is now going to have a time window, and you need to figure out what is the half time of knowledge in this area? Does it make sense to dive deep, take advantage of me being a specialist, and then at some point move on? That's the attitude that we need to have.
Okay, thank you. Wow, voting goes wild here. If AI is the TikTokization of knowledge work,
oh, I like that.
Oversaturating everything else with endless content, what do we do if we all don't care anymore?
Yeah, great question. So that ties back into the human factor. I think actually that's one reason why Substack and other such platforms are coming up, because they're like the answer to the social media crap, the slop that we find AI-generated crap. The more we see that, the more we want authenticity. A real person at our beds, a real person who's spending 7 hours writing a blog post and maybe getting some help from an AI assistant, but you see that there's an actual human who wrote this, that invites you into the conversation. I don't expect me to send holograms to conferences anytime soon. I expect the more we have AI and data and knowledge, the more people appreciate that I am actually here, and not as a hologram as ABBA does in London, which is amazing in itself. But so the human aspect is going to be scarce. That's where the value will be, and that's where I bet on with whatever I do, that people want access to me as a person, because there's so much crap out there that people want that human touch.
Thank you very much. That's a good reason to attend conferences
exactly,
like this.
Yes,
still
I did that for
age.
you right now, right? That's,
yeah, that's
exactly.
Great. The next one, how does sustainability fit into your AI diagram? I guess it's the Wicked framework.
Yeah.
Meant?
Yeah, great question. Maybe you remember a couple of years ago where people said, it was actually a research showed that one prompt cost about as much as a bottle of water. Well, things go so fast that one prompt now is more like 10, 20 milliliters of water. Fast forward 1-2 years, it will be like a drop of water. That is technological progress. And you cannot say, well, sustainability, a big issue, we should not be using AI anymore, because then we're not going to make that progress of actually reducing it from a bottle of water to a drop of water to something even less. Because thanks to solar energy, wind energy, whatever, energy is going to be abundant in the near future, according to every expert that I have seen talking about this. So it is a temporary issue. Let's not make that a huge thing. It is an issue for the moment, but we'll get beyond. And paradoxically, we need AI to solve that. Yeah.
Okay, and with that, thanks a lot. There's still a lot of questions left.
Happy to answer some of them. I will be here around for a couple of hours, so happy to talk.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.